Hello, Rory Dowse here from Cano Piano, and today we're going to be looking at Bach's Prelude in C major from the Well-Tempered Clavier.
Cano Piano, cultivate, create, communicate.
So you're probably pretty familiar with this piece. It's a pretty well-known one that I think every kind of beginner to intermediate pianist wants to learn at some stage. Now, if you're right at the beginner stage, this is pretty aspirational stuff. By all means, if you want to get stuck in, then I'd say go for it. But if you're at that intermediate level, I'd say this is a brilliant piece for you. So let's see how this goes. It's a really, really beautiful piece. I wanted to just go on a little bit more there to give you the satisfaction of that perfect cadence there. It's just lovely, really, really beautiful. So let's see then. We've got the very first prelude from the Well-Tempered Clavier, Book 1. So we're in the key of C major. We've got 4/4, and we've got these arpeggiated figures, a little bit like a harp or something. Now, in terms of going about learning this piece, one of the things I think you'll notice is really just the number of notes on the page. So I'm not even going to count the number of bars, but we've got a couple of pages here full of basically broken chords. And I think rather than kind of going through it every note like C, E, G, C, E, as a lot of you might kind of be persuaded to do, what I think I would do with this is start off first of all by just playing block chords. And then you can arpeggiate them later on when your hands are kind of used to where they're actually going. So you might want to build it up actually so it is like C, E, G, C, E, like that. And then play it as the block chord. And then maybe repeat it for the next bar to get your hands used to the feel of that chord. And then do the same thing for the next bar. So C, D, A, D, F. Building it up from the bottom up. That's a really good way, by the way, to learn I was going to say really any music, but particularly something that is arpeggiated, something that's a broken chord. Because harmony works from the bottom up. So I see a lot of students sometimes saying, oh, what's this, a C, and then what's going on, what's next? But if you work from the C up like that, it's a really good way to go about learning it. There we are as a block chord. And then I just go through that, building it up. Now that's probably a really good point just to kind of wrap up. Like if you're a beginner and this is like you're finding it super hard, you might find that you get into it and you get a little bit overwhelmed and you think, oh wow, well I've been playing this piece for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks and I feel like I'm just getting that much. This is a little harder than I thought. I'd say, look, fine, you've sown some great seeds with that, getting that far with it. If you're a little bit further along, like an intermediate to advanced level, then yeah, let's look into some of those techniques now. So we have these chords that you'll be getting quite comfortable with. And what I'd recommend you do is go through the whole piece playing the block chords from start to end, just to get a feel for what this piece is actually doing. It's essentially how would you put it? I mean, it's kind of like an improvised piece, It's a little bit like, it's almost like what you'd get in the classical period with like a fantasy, where it's just, like these are the chords, we're just kind of fooling around a little bit and playing with this, except this is just really high quality fooling around that's beautiful and put in print and, has been, really loved for a long, long, long time. I say that, I mean, Bach wasn't all that well known in his day, actually, not as a composer. He was known as a really wonderful organist, but he wasn't #1 composer. Very grateful, by the way, for the tuition I got from Yo Tsumida at Queen's University in Belfast for his wonderful guidance whenever I was a student there. I mean, this guy is wonderful and just knows Bach inside out. But I think it was really around about the time of Mendelssohn in the Romantic period, which is, you know, a couple of hundred years later, really, that Bach started to become much more better known. And so, I mean, with that in mind, you know, again, it raises the questions about interpretation and how you actually go about learning this. Well, you know, in Bach's time, we wouldn't have had a piano; it would have been a harpsichord, an organ, a clavichord. And so, how would you have interpreted this piece? Well, it's a really good starting point for some wonderful creative decisions. If you want to play it in, you know, a sort of Bach-like style, you might want to play it, say a Bach-like style, a Baroque-like style. Well, I think the first thing is that you're playing it on a piano, so, you know, there's kind of questions around that and how you might actually go about it. You know, it's not a harpsichord to even begin with, or an organ or a clavichord. So you could totally play this. Sometimes you hear it like this. Quite dry, no pedal. And so what I'm doing there is to create the resonance, I'm using something called finger pedaling, which basically means that rather than using my foot to pedal, I'm using my fingers to hold the notes down and create a little bit more resonance. So rather than playing it literally as written, which sounds, I think, a little too dry for my taste. I mean, maybe you'll make that work if you like that sort of thing, but I think I'd hold all the notes down if I were to play it this way. You can hear there, it's almost like the effect of the pedal. With pedal, a bit more resonance, of course, without pedal. Very similar, but just a little bit drier, if you like that. So that's definitely one way. So I think one of the next things we kind of run into with that, though, in terms of like how you go about this versus like instrument and modern sort of piano, is of course dynamics. And the harpsichord